Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and I'm here with another reading vlog. This one is another episode in my series Around the World in Books, where I am trying to read a book by an author from every country around the world. This episode we are going to be doing Western Europe, which honestly is one of my regions that I have read a lot of books from already, but I'm getting somewhat close to being finished with this one. So we're going to make a pretty good dent in the region in this video, and then potentially in the next video be able to maybe finish. Maybe there'll be two more with Western Europe, but one of these books I found at a thrift store. One of them I've already read a while ago and just haven't talked about it in the series yet. So then I just decided it was time to revisit Western Europe. The last episode that I did and all of the other episodes in the Around the World in Books are linked in a playlist, which I will link somewhere on the screen. So if you'd like to go see that, I have done one episode of Western Europe previously, which I actually filmed some of it while I was in Paris. So that was really fun. We're just going to dive into it. I'm going to explain the books first that I chose. So if you're just interested what books I picked, that will all be in this intro, and then I'll do a reading vlog of actually reading them and giving you my thoughts. But like I said, there's one book that I did read, and that was my book for Spain because, what was it, a year ago? Something like that. Me and my husband went on a trip to Spain and I wanted to read a book from the country while we were there. And so I just went ahead and did it, and I didn't try and make a whole video out of it. But while we were on that trip, I did read a bind up of Lazarillo de Tormes and The Swindler. These are two picturesque Spanish novels. They're very short. It's a bind up of the two of them combined. And they are very in the genre of Tom Sawyer, Huckleberry Finn, books where you're following these little boys who just kind of get up to trouble and you follow their life. Very ruleless, not very much like parental guidance happening in their childhood. They were fine. This isn't necessarily my favorite genre of books to read, so I don't know that I was the person for it, but if you're looking for something that's just like a fun little read that gives you a little taste of Spain, I think that it was pretty fun, but they're not going to be like my all-time favorite books I've ever read. So that was my pick for Spain. I did really enjoy it. I was originally planning on reading Don Quixote, but I obviously did not want to lug that big of a book around with me on my trip, and I couldn't get it easily from Libby at the time, and so I decided to pick something different that was a little bit shorter. So this is what I ended up going with. I definitely would love to get to Don Quixote at some point, but this checks the box on reading a Spanish novel. Now into the ones that I will be reading in this video. We'll go roughly alphabetical by country. First one being my pick for Andorra. This one was really hard to find. I was not able to find a book by an author that was like born and raised in Andorra, so I've ended up settling for somebody who's lived there for quite some time. But if you have any recommendations of a book by an Andorran author that is easily accessible in the US and in English, please leave your recommendations down below, because I'm not 100% happy with my pick for this one. I think the book has definite potential to be good, but again, this author is somebody who moved to Andorra and they've lived there for a while, but like not necessarily a native. This is Death Has a Thousand Doors by Patricia W. Gray. I don't know if this one was translated. Let me see. I think it might have just been written in English. She is originally Australian, but she has lived and she like retired to Andorra in 1996, and the book is set in Andorra. So yeah, again, please leave recommendations if you have a better pick. I would be totally happy to read something else if someone could help me find one. Do I remember what this is about? Not really. So let me see. The back isn't really describing it very well. Family complications abound in this mystery set in the little-known Pyrenean Principality of Andorra. We travel through the mountains, villages, and history of Andorra through the histories and stories of its characters as a family comes together to search for its missing sister and daughter. An irrepressible, suspenseful read from start to finish. So yes, I love a good mystery book. We'll see what this one's about. The cover is a little cringy. Not gonna lie, could use a better cover design, but this is my pick for Andorra. And then my next country is Austria, and this one I picked quite a classic book. This is A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor E. Frankl. I don't think this book necessarily needs an introduction, but it is, I believe, nonfiction. Let's see. Man's Search for Meaning has riveted generations of readers with its descriptions of life in Nazi death camps and its lessons for spiritual survival. Between 1942 and 1945, psychiatrist Viktor Frankl labored in 4 different camps, including Auschwitz, with his parents, brother, and pregnant wife. While his parents, brother, and pregnant wife perished. Based on his own experience and the stories of his many patients, Frankl argues that we cannot avoid suffering, but we can choose how to cope with it, find meaning in it, and move forward with renewed purpose. Frankl's theory, known as logotherapy, from the Greek word logos or meaning, holds that our primary drive in life is not pleasure, as Freud maintained, but the discovery and pursuit of what we personally find meaningful. It's like a nonfiction based off of his thoughts on things. I know this one's going to be pretty heavy, so I'm probably going to sandwich it in between a few of my other books for this video, potentially even just read a little bit at a time while I'm working on everything else, because I do think this one's going to be a little rough to read, but it should be good. And then we have my pick for Belgium, and I'm quite excited about this one. This one is Wonder by Hugo Claus and translated by Michael Henry Heim. This one is, first of all, just the most oddly shaped book I've ever owned. It's like so square, but it is about, I'll just read you the synopsis because that's easier. While exposing the remains of Flemish fascism 20 years after the war, Wonder tracks one man's descent into madness. Viktor, a bewildered teacher, pursues a mysterious woman to a castle in a remote village. There he finds himself trapped among a handful of desperate individuals still living out their collaboration with the Nazis. As Viktor's sanity begins to crumble, he poses as an expert on their messianic leader who disappeared at the Russian front, but whose return they believe imminent. The rich cadences of the prose and dense emotional texture of the characters lost in a complex moral labyrinth make Wonder a symphony only Claus could have composed. Yeah, so you're following a guy who goes crazy, and that's the gist of what I got. I looked up a bio on this guy, and he did every form of art he could get his hands on. Like, he wrote plays and poetry and novels, and he painted, and he directed some films. Quite the guy. His painting, I did look it up, not my cup of tea, but I'm hoping I will enjoy his book. And then this one is still coming in the mail, so it will not be the one that I start with, but it should show up, I think, in a few days. So I'm just going to put the cover on here for now, but this is my pick for Denmark. This is Lucky Purr by Henrik. I looked up how to say this. Let's make sure I say it right. Let's see. Henrik Pontoppidan? Something like that. From what I got from my research, this is a Danish classic that didn't get translated into English until actually a bit later, or a lot of people online seem to think that this would be more of what we consider a classic, just in general, but because it didn't get translated for so long, it hasn't gotten quite the level of popularity. Again, this is all based off of Goodreads comments. Let's see. This one is about the ambitious son of a clergyman who rejects his faith and flees his restricted life in the Danish countryside for the capital city. Purr is a gifted young man who arrives in Copenhagen believing that you had to hunt down luck as if it were a wild creature, a crooked-fanged beast, and capture and bind it. Purr's love interest, a Jewish heiress, is both the strongest character in the book and one of the greatest Jewish heroines of European literature. Purr becomes obsessed with a grand engineering scheme that he believes will reshape both Denmark's landscape and its minor place in the world. Eventually, both his personal and career ambitions come to grief. At its heart, the story revolves around the question of the relationship of luck to happiness. The Danish word in the title can have both meanings. I guess the lucky part. A relationship Purr comes to see differently by the end of his life. So it sounds like you're following him for a pretty good amount of time. And yeah, it's just kind of like one of those classic books, like I feel like most classics, it's hard to describe what it's about. So hopefully I'll be able to explain it better once I've actually read the book. The final country that I want to get to in this video is Germany. And for this one, this is actually the one I found at a thrift store, and this is The Thief Lord by Cornelia Funke. I think that's how you say her name. It could be incorrect. So please, I don't know. People need to put translation guides more places. Like, or not translation, like pronunciation guides. That's the word I was looking for. Would be very helpful. But this one is a middle grade book. I'll just read you the back. Welcome to the magical underworld of Venice, Italy. Here, hidden canals and crumbling rooftops shelter runaways and children with incredible secrets. After escaping from their cruel aunt and uncle, orphans Prosper and Beau meet a mysterious boy who calls himself the Thief Lord. Clever and charming, the Thief Lord leads a band of street children who enjoy making mischief. But the Thief Lord also has a dark secret, and suddenly Prosper and Beau find themselves on a fantastical journey to a forgotten place. What they discover there will change the course of their destiny. I found this book in his thrift store, and then literally a couple days later, Carrie posted a video from Carrie Can Read talking about how this was one of her favorite books when she was a kid. And so, I don't know, it's just one of those things where stuff just kind of lined up, and I knew I needed to get to this one. I've never read anything else by this author. I don't know. I think that is a complete lie, actually. I think I've read a book by this author before called Dragon Rider, but I do not remember at all. I was very young when I read it, if I actually did. So I'm considering this kind of my first book by her. I technically have read the other one, but I'm not like counting that towards my checking off a German author. So we're going to read this one. I feel like this one could be a really good one to follow up Man's Search for Meaning and some of the heavier things. But I think what I'm going to start with is Wonder. This one's just kind of calling to me right now. I think that this could be a fun one, and then I'll probably start picking my way through Man's Search for Meaning, and I will update you when I have some thoughts. Alright, I have a few updates for this video. First of all, I cut my hair, so just for continuity's sakes, I've gotten a haircut, but I have several book updates to give you on this video. It's been a minute since I started this video, and I'm not making as much progress as I would like to, but I took a little bit of a break because I had several library books all come through. I'm almost finished catching up on that, and so I'm going to be able to like really dive back into this video. First off, Wonder. I have decided to DNF this book for a multitude of reasons. First off, I could feel this book actively putting me into a reading slump, and I just don't have time to be in a huge reading slump right now. I have so many books I'm trying to read, and I just, like, it's never fun to be in a reading slump, so I felt like it just wasn't the best book to be reading. It was so confusing, and I was prepared for this book to be a little bit confusing because the premise is obviously him going crazy, but I thought it was going to be like we started off with that and then we like slowly descend into the craziness. No, from the very beginning of this book it makes no sense, and I'm not sure if we're supposed, like, it almost feels like we're supposed to be able to follow what's happening at the beginning of the book, and it's supposed to be that he slowly descends into madness. I don't know, but I was so lost. I was having a really hard time following it, which I was prepared to power through. Oh, my battery's dying. I was prepared to power through all of the confusingness, and then I hit a scene where he's a teacher and he's having sex with his underage, at least from what I can tell, underage pupil. And I was just like, no, never mind. I'm not, like, at that point I'm not rooting for this character anymore, and I just got totally blindsided by it. It was much more explicit than I expected it to be, especially considering whatever library this was at before it went into thrift books labeled this as YA. But yeah, from what I can tell, he's like a high school teacher, and so that scene just kind of gave me the ick a little bit, and so I decided, you know what, that was like my final straw. If I'm gonna keep getting blindsided by like weird stuff like that, then I don't feel the need to keep pushing through this book. So we're gonna go ahead and DNF this one. If you have any suggestions for other authors from Belgium that you think I would enjoy, I really feel like there's got to be a book out there that I would like actually really love, which is another reason I'm kind of DNFing it. I feel like specifically with Western Europe, like so many of those have to be translated into English. Like I feel like I have a lot of options, and so it seems like I should be able to find one that I actually really enjoy from a Belgian author. So there's no point in pushing myself through one that I'm not really gonna love, if there could be one out there that I really like. So let me know if you got any Belgian authors that you would recommend that you think I would really like, and I will add them to my list for the next time I pick this region. In addition to that one, I have been working my way through Man's Search for Meaning. I'm about halfway through the book. I'm on page 66, and this one's been good. I am I'm struggling a little bit with my thoughts on this book. Obviously it's a true story, and so it is interesting. The way that he's chosen to format this book is very, like, he kind of just hops around into all sorts of things. So like I got to a point where it sounds like I'm pretty sure the war front had reached the camp that he was at. It sounded like they were freed, and then all of a sudden we're back to him being like a doctor in one of the camps. And so it's a little bit jarring in that, like, it seems like we're done with the concentration camp part. We're gonna like move on to something different, and then all of a sudden we're back, and you're just kind of jumping back and forth. There's not like a logical, it's not chronological, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Which, like, there's nothing wrong with that. It just, I feel like, took a while for my brain. I feel like it's mostly, he feels chronological, and then all of a sudden it will just like not be. And so it takes a second for my brain to like keep up with where we're at in the book. He spends a lot of time in the beginning of the book saying how this is not like documentation of what happened. It's his like thoughts on it. And he still gives you a lot of like stuff that happened. But there is stuff in there where he's kind of looking at it from like a psychologist's viewpoint on it. He's kind of walking you through like the stages of, I guess, having a traumatic event happen to you. Maybe that's not right, but there's like several stages of whatever he's trying to explain. And so he'll like tell you like the next stage is this, and then he'll give you like examples of how he saw that in the camps. So it is interesting. It's a little bit different from some of the other like World War II concentration camp books that have gotten really big, but there are a lot of obviously similar stories that he's had. It's interesting, he got himself made like a camp doctor for part of it, which like he volunteered to work as a camp doctor even though he's not really like that kind of a doctor. So that's been interesting to read about. So yeah, overall it's going good. I don't know that I feel like it's that different from other books that I've read, but it's interesting. I think reading a World War II book every once in a while is good, but it's not like such a different viewpoint. I feel a little bit like you've read a couple and you really get the gist of what most of them are about, so it's not anything super different from what you would expect, but it's still good. It's very clear writing, easy to follow, aside from the random time jumps. I was kind of hoping when we got to the part where it sounded like he was going to be freed that it would then do a little bit of like the after he got freed from the concentration camp, and like, I mean, we're looking at it from like a psychologist's point of view, so the like process of recovering from something like that I think would be really interesting, but maybe we will get to that in this book. I don't know. But yeah, that's where I'm at with Man's Search for Meaning. I will probably finish this before I talk to you guys again about it. And then the last update that I have for you, this one will be prepped relatively quickly. I have started Lucky Purr. I'm not super far into it. I am at 28 pages. These pages are very thin, and it looks like I'm really far in the book, but there's a whole section of like all of this is notes and an introduction and what else is in here? A chronology of like the author's life and literary context and stuff like that. I did not take the time to read that. I just jumped straight in with chapter 1. But so far I am enjoying this book. It has the feel of a classic, like it truly does. And I don't know how to explain that better, but just like when you read classics, even though they're all wildly different, there's just a certain feel that classics have, and this definitely has it. And I'm enjoying it so far. We start with him as a little boy, and he grew up with a dad that was a preacher, and he just did not really fit in with his family very well. And then you kind of follow him, the point that I'm at, like you very quickly go through his childhood and teenage years, and he has now moved out to go to university, and that's kind of the point that we're at. Obviously there's a lot of this book left, so we'll see where all we end up going with it. There's been some fun descriptions, there's been some fun lines. I'm enjoying this one so far, so I will keep working through this one. I have a feeling this one's going to take me a while to read. But yes, that's where I'm at. I will update you again when I've finished at least one book, and I'll tell you my thoughts on it. It is time to update you on this video. I have finished Man's Search for Meaning actually a while ago, and I'm just now getting around to talking about it, but not too long after I talked to you, this book did take a turn. It really started focusing on his research and the therapy side of things. Like I was saying, kind of what I expected from the book. We did get that. It's in the second half. I found that part very interesting. That really did hook me a lot more than the first part did. There was a lot of really fascinating things in there. Some things that I thought were pertinent. Really is just interesting to read. He had lots of examples of working with different people and ways that he like helped them change their mindsets on stuff. So very eye-opening book. I think if you got this book at the right time in your life, this could be a very transformational book. I don't know that it really hit that hard for me, but it was a fun read. Definitely enjoyed the second half more than the first half, which I feel really wrong saying that, but it just is a little bit more like applicable, a little less heavy than the first half of the book is. So yeah, it did take that turn. It was fascinating. I am finished with this one now. I've also made a significant amount of progress through Lucky Per. I am about halfway through this book. Having mixed feelings about this. This is really taking me a long time to read, and part of that is that it's just kind of a long book and the words are really tiny and there's not very big line spacing. But this became much more of a romance book than I was anticipating, for sure. We spent the whole, I don't know, first 200 pages with Per just going after girl after girl after girl. He finally picked one. They are engaged, and this man and me are about to have some beef because he like cannot commit. He keeps, the amount of times where we've come around and he's been like, well, I've decided I've got to break off the engagement because clearly we're not meant for each other and I'm supposed to go for someone else, while this woman is like madly in love with him. Is just driving me crazy. Like, could he just make up his mind already? And he is so full of himself. He like thinks he is just like the most incredible person ever who is gonna like change the world, which like good to a certain extent. Like you can have some confidence, but he goes over the line and he's kind of annoying. He's a very flawed main character, which I think is the point. I think the point is that you see this start with this really flawed character and then you get like their character growth throughout the book. I'm halfway through. We've yet to see much character growth happen. So we'll see what happens at the end of the book. I'm not really sure where we're going with this. There's also quite a few mentalities in here that I really don't agree with. Again, we're following a very flawed character and I think it's intentional. I don't know that it's necessarily like the author's viewpoints coming out, but maybe it is. I don't know enough about this author, but definitely a lot of stuff about like racism against the Jews. He's currently engaged to someone who is Jewish, and he has quite a bit of deep-seated racism that he's been having to get over with that. There's also a lot, it's very anti-Christian so far in the book, and I don't know that that's necessarily like a flaw we're gonna see in the character. It feels like we just are very anti-Christian, but maybe he'll come around, I don't know. But he was raised, I think I've mentioned it, in a very strict Christian household. His dad was a pastor, and so he's like gone away from that and is now very not antagonistic, but very internally vocal against Christianity, and that comes through a lot in the book because you are following his point of view. Again, don't know if this is the author's point of view or if this is just him writing this flawed character. Have no idea. But I don't know, it's interesting. I don't know that I'm enjoying it. It's been a little bit of a slog to get through. It took me a long time to get into it. I feel like I'm kind of in the flow now, so hopefully I can make some quicker progress. It took me a while to keep track of all the characters. Like, it really does throw quite a few different people at you because he's jumping from social circle to social circle for the first little bit. But once he does get engaged, he kind of settles down and you get the same set of characters. So that is helpful. Not sure my thoughts on it yet. I think it'll kind of depend on how it ends and if he really does come around and see some personal character growth by the end, or if he just is still annoying by the end of the book. But hopefully he grows as a person and we get like a much better version of him by the end. I don't know what's gonna happen with this whole engagement situation. She deserves better than him, truly. She really does. And maybe he's gonna grow into who she needs, but honestly she'd be better off without him, and that's where I stand on that at the moment. So I'm gonna go and hopefully finish this book and then I'll chat with you guys. I still have 2 more books to read in this video. This video is taking me so much longer than I intended it to. We've just been really busy and this book has been taking me forever. So I'm gonna try and read for the next like hour until my husband gets home from work, and then we'll eat dinner and then I'll try and read some more and just see how much progress I can make in this book because I'm ready for it to be done. I have a lot of updates for this video. First of all, I finished Lucky Purr. Putting my thoughts into words on this has been very difficult. The ending was interesting on this one. It's hard to talk about without spoiling things, but let's just say I'm not quite sure what the point was here. It seems like it's supposed to be like the self-improvement, like we watch him as he develops, right? And then the ending, like it seems like that's where we're headed, and then the ending all of a sudden is just like we're going back and it's like kind of a depressing ending. I wouldn't say that he necessarily improves much throughout this book in general. So I don't know, it was really odd. Still really processing. It definitely is like a classic book. This would be a very interesting book to read with like a book club or a class or something where you had some people to like really be able to discuss it with. Because there's some very interesting themes in here that I think would bring up some great discussions. That being said, this did take me forever to read. So take that as you will. I'm putting it at like a 3-star because I just really don't know how I feel about the book. It was good, but it's not like a new favorite for me. And then I haven't updated you guys at all, but I have read the entirety of The Thief Lord. This one was fun. It's, I mean, obviously a kid's book. It's very light on the fantasy. Like, the magic does not show up until very far into the book. But it was a good, fun time. It feels very magical and whimsical, even though the magic is, like, actually a very small part of the book. Really enjoyed it. It's a good time if you like reading middle grade, if you want one that just, like, feels just like a fun, magical, through a kid's eyes type of a book. Does the plot make a ton of sense, like logically? No. Are there a lot of things that are just a little bit odd that happen in this book? Yes, but it was still fun. There's a lot of really unique characters. I think it had a very good, satisfying ending. There were some actual like legitimate plot twists in here, which I was not expecting. So that was really fun. That kind of made it just a little more exciting than I was expecting it to be. So very fun. I love her writing. I do need to read the Inkheart series at some point. I've never read it. I think it's a series. Is it just one book? I feel like it's a series. Definitely would like to read more of her work. This was a very good pick for my Germany author. And then the last thing I haven't updated you on is I have started Death Has a Thousand Doors, our last book for this video. I am almost 100 pages into this book. I don't know why it took me by surprise that this was a mystery book, because it literally says that on the back. But for some reason in my mind, I was just thinking this was gonna be a little more lit-ficky, but it is definitely a mystery book. You're following this lady who shows up to, they're reading the final trust of this thing, and so her and a few other people who are beneficiaries of this trust are having to get together in Andorra to be present for the reading, right? And so it's her and her dad and then her half-sister are all part of this trust. And she shows up a little bit early because she's planning to stay and like kind of take a vacation living with her half-sister for like a week. But when she gets there, she finds that her half-sister's not there and nobody really knows where she is. And so it ends up turning into this police investigation to figure out where her sister went missing. Her sister is a like war correspondent or like a photojournalist, and so they're like, she get involved with something, but she's not on any assignments, so it becomes this whole thing. That's as far as I've gotten. They've found a couple clues. They're starting to piece together a little bit of maybe what she was working on, but they haven't made it super far into the investigation yet. So I'm enjoying this one. It's good. Definitely a little slow moving for like a mystery book, but I am intrigued. I feel like they've laid down a good line of clues, and now I just need there to be a really good payoff. Finished Death Has 1,000 Doors. I'm giving this one like a 3.75 stars. Overall, I had a good time with it, but it was just missing a little something. I think what it was is it felt very, like, scenes were just a little shortened, weren't quite fully fleshed out before we'd move on. Like, you just had all these little snippets of scenes, and it felt like she was trying to, almost every piece of information was set into a different scene. And so instead of just having like one longer scene where you got a whole bunch of information, it was like each time we got a new piece of information, we had to change the setting and have a different scene. And it just made it feel a little choppy. You never got fully into it, I feel like, because you just kept jumping from thing to thing to thing, and it was hard to make the connections and follow what was happening because there was just so many different setting changes and so many different people being introduced. And the ending was a little anticlimactic, but like satisfying. It wrapped stuff up for the most part. I still have a few questions, but yeah, and I felt like a lot of it was just a little messy because every single relationship in this book had somebody that had either been unfaithful or they had like broken up and someone had remarried or something, and so it was just really complicated trying to follow who was related to who, because it was just like so interconnected. But it was fine. That like served a purpose within the plot, which was okay. And then there was like this random little side kidnapping thing that happened, and like there was just maybe too many things that she was trying to work into one mystery plot line, so it got a little messy and it made it hard to really focus in on the main mystery because there's just so many little sideline things going on. But overall, I had a good time. I think this is one of the ugliest covers I own, and it definitely deserves a better one. But if you're interested in Andorra, this definitely sets the scene. There's a lot of stuff worked in about the culture. But yeah, there's just a lot of scenes that felt unnecessarily short, and like there was an unnecessary amount of them. But that does bring us to the end of this video. And overall, I had a really good time with these books. I feel like it is really easy to get into European books just because I feel like it tends to follow the storytelling structure that I'm more used to, but I do really enjoy getting into some of the other regions of the world and getting some different types of storytelling. But yeah, I had a good time with these. This does officially bring me to 30% of countries, so I'm making good progress slowly but surely. This is my 3rd or 4th year working on this, so it's a very slow, long goal that I've set for myself, but I'm 30% of the way through, and that puts me at 61% of Western Europe is complete. So we're very close to finishing up Western Europe as a region. The places that I have left are Belgium. I need a new one for that. I need to find a book for Liechtenstein, however you say that one, Luxembourg, Malta, Monaco, Netherlands, San Marino, Switzerland, and the Vatican City. I don't know how possible that one is, but if you have recommendations for any of those, I probably have like 2 more videos of Western Europe that I'll be doing, so give me recs down below and that will probably help me pick which ones are in the next video. Most likely it'll be the ones that are easier to find books for, and then the final Western Europe video will be the ones that are hard. So that's what I've got left. I would really appreciate when you guys leave recommendations. I've got quite a few ideas from other people's comments for some of my other regions that I'm hopefully going to be getting back around to at some point, but probably won't be getting back to Western Europe until like next year, because I already kind of have planned out what I'm going to try and hit for the rest of the year. But anyways, gonna go ahead and end this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.